All right. Bears Nation podcast coming at you. I don't know where to look. This is new because I don't want to look at the camera because it's all the way over there. But I don't want to look at you either. Bears Nation podcast. It is Wednesday, July 20th, 2022. And the Bears Nation podcast is live in person together for the first time ever. Well, I mean, we've met, but ever recorded episode. It's interesting. Hello, YouTube. Hello, TikTok. Everywhere else on Twitch, yeah. Right?
Yep, still Twitch.
Twitter. Here we are. This is man, I really don't know where to look. This is interesting. But Bears Nation podcast, first ever in-person episode together. Kevin Lapka, how we doing?
It feels good. Shane M's already in the chat. He says in person.
In person.
Can't believe it.
Hopefully these mics actually work.
I know. If there are any issues, again, this is sort of a trial run for us. So hit us in the chat if there are issues.
More than kind of.
We would, more than kind of. We would appreciate it. But I never thought we'd actually get to this point. I thought we would have stayed remote.
It was discussed a long time ago. It was discussed a long time ago when this was a 3-man show. I think even when this was a 4-man show, it was discussed. But here we are. Now, Kevin's back inside state lines. I've been here for a long time, obviously, as most of you know. But yeah, here we are.
It feels
you live
good.
farther than I thought you did.
Yeah, north side of the city. So still in the Chicago
stoplights.
area, though. We are a 606 zip code. I know there's a lot of people who, we get on the people who say they're from Chicago, but they're not. That's one of the biggest pet peeves of us from Chicago. But we are here in the 312. But yeah, man, we got some Bears stuff. Training camp just a week away now. So exactly 7 days from today, training camp will be starting, man. And you know, it's I don't know if it's the most exciting training camp that we've been looking forward to, but we're gonna make something out of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, year one of, I say rebuild. You probably lean more towards retool. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, year one with a new regime, there's always, when you have a new coach, it's always going to be interesting. And then obviously year two of Justin Fields is going to be interesting, and there's going to be stuff to watch. I mean, hey, N'Keal Harry, right? I've always said when you can go see N'Keal Harry at training camp, you got to do it. No, but I mean, it's training camp. It's the first time in months that we've actually had anything. Kevin with the ringer, love to see it. Absolutely raging hot start.
We're working it out.
But no, I mean, there's things to see. There's things that maybe aren't the most exciting as last year, maybe, but there's still things, and we'll still talk about it. And that's why we are here. Yeah.
And I guess we'll dive right into quarterbacks because, you know, this is not an area of depth, obviously, that, you know, well, it can be. Oh God, we're doing this already. Well, we're not doing it, but we know the possibility of Justin Fields getting injured is there in comparison to other quarterbacks because of the nature of the way he plays football. I mean, that's just a given. Now, we're not going to sit here and do a deep dive on Trevor Simeon or Nathan Peterman, but I'm not ever going to do more than 30 seconds on Nathan Peterman. I'm going to preface it with that.
What is there to say?
There's nothing to say.
The tape really speaks for itself.
It does. And the fact that they signed him is still questionable in my opinion, but does it really matter? Does it really matter? Like, am I going to get mad at Ryan Poles for signing Nathan Peterman? No, I'm not going to dedicate my hate to that area.
Well, he's probably going to be on the practice squad. God, you hope that he's on the practice squad the entire year, but
yeah, I'd hope so.
I mean, it's the Justin Fields show.
It is.
Obviously, Trevor Simeon, whatever, serviceable, one-time starter, great, cool, whatever. That's, like Kevin said, it's about it. It's about the 30 seconds we're going to give you on Trevor Simeon. I'm not going to go through his accolades at Northwestern. He's fine. This is year two of Justin Fields. This is what it's all about. Is he going to have enough time to throw? Remains to be seen, as the offensive line still, God help us all, still remains to be shaped. We still remain to see what Tevin Jenkins is going to be. Still remains to be seen what Larry Borum can be. It still remains to be seen which rookie is going to be playing on the offensive line. So we'll see. It's a lot to do, but it's the Justin Fields show. Year two, obviously, is that jump where you expect a quarterback to make that leap. Year one to year two, we've seen it. Justin Herbert, most recently, Joe Burrow. Obviously, the bar was in hell coming off that injury, so he could only go up. Justin Fields, obviously far from the only one. Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, our king. Also looking at you, Mac Jones, of course. But, I mean, this is Justin Fields or bust. I mean, everything that you hope to accomplish predicates on him, whether that's 8 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins. We'll see what happens. I mean, if he gets hurt, you're done. You're tanking. Your season's basically in the garbage as it is. But it's just expectations for him. We did this with wide receivers last week when we were talking about N'Keal Harry and Darnell Mooney and the rest of that room. And I texted you a couple days ago. I was like, I kind of want to do this again. I want to do this more with quarterbacks. Then we'll get to tight ends and running backs as well, because it's really one guy at the top. I mean, we talk a little bit about Khalil Herbert when we get to the running backs, but it's more one guy at each of those positions, and we'll see where that gets us, because you hope that obviously Justin Fields will be the guy for 17 games. You hope that David Montgomery doesn't miss a chunk of the season again. Yep. You hope that Cole Kmet can take that leap. So starting with Justin Fields, expectations, it's so weird. I go back and forth on this because so much of Justin Fields and what you're expecting from him is predicated on what this offensive line is going to look like. How much is he going to have more than 3 seconds to throw? And that's a huge maybe at this point. What are we going to see from this offensive line? Is it directly correlated to what are we going to see from Justin Fields?
Now, it's not the only factor. Like, there are other factors to take into consideration. Is it an important factor? Yes. Is it a top 2 factor of importance? Yes, it is. And Jason Peters came out today or yesterday and said, once Justin Fields get his line down is when you're going to see him take that leap. And he's, this is a guy, Jason Peters, who played with him last year, has seen this firsthand. And he admitted, he said, look, we didn't give Justin the time last year to make him as successful as he could possibly be. And that's just the fact of the matter. It's just the way it was for him. But yet, like, we have to understand, regardless of how improved we think this offensive line is going to be, it's not going to be a top 10 unit in the NFL. I don't even think it'll be a top 15 unit in the NFL, but I think you're happy if it's a top 20 unit in the NFL. So if you're in that 20 to 15
if it's number 20 range, I'm happy.
Yeah, that's number 20. Yeah, you're very much happy. And that is totally a serviceable, that, like, if you have a top 20 offensive line, like, you could be a playoff team with that. Like, it's not, top 20 offensive line, you can't make the playoffs. Like, no, that's possible, because the main thing, I think,
the Bengals just did it.
Exactly. The Bengals just did. They made a Super Bowl run with it, and they weren't even top 20. They were like dead last in the NFL in offensive line rankings. But the number one thing to focus on is going to be the coaching staff and how they design plays for Justin Fields and how they, put him in a place to succeed. And you think there's a lot of people who go into training camp, don't know what to see. Well, that's what you have to look for. I mean, we go in every year, this month between July and August, these 2 months between July and August, and we haven't had football for so long. Right. And this is what this is the closest thing you have to what you're going to see on the field on Sundays in September. So these things do mean something. So what I'm going to be looking for starting next week on Wednesday is, what are the differences now between Luke Getsy's offense and what Matt Nagy ran last year? I mean, those are the only things I'm looking for. Will I stress about throws that he's making at practice yet? No, I'm not going to stress about that, because you remember in the second year of Mitch Trubisky, everyone thought the leap was going to come for him as well. And training camp came around, and he was throwing a lot of picks, and he was throwing a lot of incompletions.
Which
and people started to panic.
The writing on the wall.
It was the writing on the wall. But I think in certain scenarios, those things are going to happen. But I think in that area, like, that's the funny thing about training camp. We talk about every year. That could also be the defense playing really well. And you have a defensive-minded head coach with Matt Eberflus.
And that's especially given the secondary we expect to be at least a top half of the league unit, with Jaquan Brisker, who has looked awesome by all regards. Eddie Jackson, hopefully a bounce back for him. Jalen Johnson, we know how good he is. And Kyler Gordon, of course, being in action for the first time, really, because he missed all of minicamp, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Kyler Gordon, we're seeing him for the first time as well. So that's huge. Just for the baseline of what we're expecting. Justin Fields, rookie year, 12 games, 10 starts, went 159 out of 270 for a 58.9 completion percentage, 1,870 yards, 7 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. That's just through the air. And then a 26.4 QBR. Jesus Christ. And then where is his rushing stats?
Heavily influenced by the Cleveland game, that QBR.
Yes. And then his rushing yards, 72 rushes for 420 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Exactly.
So obviously not the best. Obviously wasn't the starter from day one, as we pined about and bitched about and complained about, rightly so.
Every episode last year.
Basically. So bar's pretty low. Bar is down there for him. Really can only go up from there. So that was with I hate to say it, but a more stable offensive line last year.
Yeah. Yeah, so. I guess. I mean, and the thing is, like, there's going to be people. I almost just said it. I almost said, well, maybe it's good the bar is low because there was a lot of pressure on him last year. He was, anytime you're in a position like he is in with knowing the history of the Chicago Bears in 2022, just the amount of pressure on him, regardless, like he could have been drafted in the 7th round. And if he was expected to be the starter, like there is immense pressure on you to perform because you are in a city that has been deprived of good quarterback play for its entire history. Like it's never happened. So now, okay, you're a 1st-round draft pick, a guy who has a decorated college career. You come in, the pressure is 10 times what it would be for even like, I mean, it's even more pressure than I thought Mitch Trubisky had coming in. Yeah, Mitch was a higher pick, but Mitch wasn't what Justin Fields was in college. And now it's like, and everyone, and there was tons of people who thought Mitch was the wrong pick in the first place. No one thought Justin Fields was the wrong pick, especially the value you got for him, where you drafted him. So the pressure's on him. But I was almost going to say, well, maybe it's better that, the expectations are lower now given what he did last year. But I don't want to say that because I think Justin Fields really, really thrives under pressure and he doesn't crack and fold under it like, maybe a Mitch or a lot of other guys in the league, a lot of other players in the league do. And if you think, well, how is that true? Just look at, that Steelers game, right? I mean, that's a game, you were down. It's Monday Night Football in Pittsburgh, the Baltimore game. Like, he does not fold under pressure. So I'm not worried about him, having to say, look, last year was not my best year. I have to come out and perform. I don't think he's going to fold under the pressure. I think he's going to be ready to go. I don't think we're going to have to be like, wait a couple weeks for him to get acclimated. Like if he's going to be good this year, and this is what I would say, if he's going to be a top 15 quarterback this year, you're going to see it out the gates. This isn't going to take 2 to 3 weeks to get ready with his receivers. Like I'm expecting to see it from the jump. Week 1 against San Francisco, I'm expecting an improved Justin Fields.
I only slightly disagree with that because I think depending on the offensive line and who's starting and what's going on with that whole situation, that could require some adjustment. Obviously, you have your main pieces. Cody Whitehair's still there. What's his face? And now you have
Mustafa.
God. And
Tevin Jenkins
what's his face from Green Bay? Lucas Patrick, who's a veteran center. So you have 2 veteran guys there. I guess you could now call Larry Borum a veteran because he's not a rookie, obviously.
Is that how I always get weird about that? Is any punter who's not a rookie technically a veteran? I'm like, if I really want to call someone a veteran, I'm like, okay, I got to wait 3 to 4 years. By technicality,
technically, guys who have been in the league longer than a year, I guess by that standard. But it's still like you might have a 5th-round rookie as your left tackle. You might have a guy who hasn't played football and like not a lot more than a few snaps of football in like 2 years, and Tevin Jenkins at left tackle or right tackle, depending on if Borum switches to guard. So that I could see, because think about it this way. Jason Peters came in and was terrible against the Browns, and then he was your best offensive lineman the rest of the way. So I'm a little hesitant to say, okay, he's got to click right away, because also this 49ers defense that you're going to be facing in week 1 is not, I mean, it's a top 7 unit in the NFL, especially with a top 5 defensive lineman in Bosa as well. So it's like, there's a lot of factors. I'm not expecting Justin Fields to hit the ground running. Am I expecting, all I want to see is just like a, not necessarily smarter Justin Fields, because I think he's a very smart quarterback and I think he has a high football IQ, but just stay alive. Like, just limit the hits. And I want to just better decision-making, I guess, as far as the sliding, as far as when to throw the ball away, as far as when to take the shot downfield, just a step forward. And I mean, I know we talked about this nearly every episode last year. And obviously we hit the stride from that 4-week stretch for like Pittsburgh and the Baltimore game and a couple of those games where it was like, okay, now Justin Fields is starting to hit his stride, start to make those decisions. Then he got hurt and missed a couple games, and that kind of set everything back. And then we were here on our soapboxes saying, well, now the clock is kind of reset and blah, blah, blah. You have all this time. You're day one from day one. You are the day one starter. You're the guy. You're working with the ones. You're working with across the board, the ones, the line, even though you're kind of switching on the line, but you get my point. The receivers, especially David Montgomery is the running back, so on and so forth. So there's going to be less leeway for Justin Fields. So the question becomes, what does a successful season look like for Justin Fields? A, staying alive is the biggest one. Obviously, injuries happen in the NFL. If he misses a game or two because he gets his head taken off by Nick Bosa, I'll understand that. Fine. And you do face some tough defenses this year, obviously. stay alive, stay relatively healthy. Obviously, everyone gets banged up in the NFL too. So if by the end of the year we're hearing that he's dealing with something or other that's nagging him, fine. Everybody is in the NFL by week 17, 16. Everybody has an injury. Just don't go on the IR. Don't miss more than a week at a time. If you miss a week in week 3 and then you're good until like week 14 and you miss a week, fine. I can handle that. That's fine.
Yeah.
Just make it through alive and just show what we saw in college that made us drool over you. The deep ball accuracy, the running ability. And I do think, it's impossible for Luke Getsy to screw this up more than Matt Nagy did. The bar, this floor here, the bar is so far below the floor after the Matt Nagy offense. As long as I don't see any bubble screens this year,
oh my God,
I will be happy. As long as I see shots being taken down the field, I will be happy. It's so, Luke Getsy, obviously probably watching this, it's so easy. Your job is so easy for people to be happy with this offense. Mix it up, show the play action, and we'll be happy. Just put the kid in a position to succeed, and we'll be happy. Move the receivers, move the running backs around, move the kid around in the pocket, and I'll be happy. Get him through alive, get him through healthy. Am I expecting a Pro Bowl? Maybe as a reserve because the Pro Bowl is so dumb and everybody gets in at this point.
For Fields?
But take the leap, take a step forward, and then we'll revisit in year 3 when we have a ton of cap space and you have a crap load of money to throw around, get you some offensive linemen, get you maybe another receiver. Obviously, we liked Darnell Mooney on the show, but get you another receiver who maybe can step above Darnell Mooney. A little bit better than Darnell. You can do better than Darnell Mooney is my point. I haven't seen the
shockingly
receivers.
Enough. You can.
I'm not trying to look towards next winter already and see who's going to be free agents, but you get the point. So again, back to the original question, what does a successful season from Justin Fields look like? He didn't even crack 2,000 yards last year. 4,000 yards?
I don't think so. I think 3,800 because he's going to have
honestly,
900 rushing yards.
3,800 was the number I did have in mind.
Yeah.
So I'll accept that. Let's play this game.
And I don't and look, if Bears fans have to wait,
you pine, I'm gonna look.
If Bears fans have to wait to have there's that stat that everyone wants to bring up that the Bears have never had a 4,000-yard passer, and we're waiting for that day to end. But if Justin Fields throws for 3,800 yards and rushes for 900 and scores 30 touchdowns with, maybe let's say 35 touchdowns, and 7 of them are on the ground and 28 of them are on the air, you like that quick math, then I don't care. I don't care if he's not a 4,000-yard passer if they win 9 games and he throws for 3,800 yards. Again, he's going to pose a major threat in the running game, and he isn't necessarily equipped with his offensive personnel to throw for 4,000 yards this year. I will go on this show, as I have before, and say that I think the offensive personnel is good enough for them to win 8 to 9 games, but it's not expected for him to throw for 4,000 yards with the weapons that he has. But what are we doing here, Jake?
We're going to play the same game we did last year. We're going to not last year, last week. You know what I mean? We're going to make some comparisons. I'm going to read you some stuff. Okay. This was from a quarterback. And so this quarterback in his rookie year, I think you know where I'm going with this, but threw for 1,200 yards across 7 starts with, where are you?
1,200 yards and 7 starts?
7 starts, 1,200 yards through the air, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. On the ground, and this is where it's going to give it away, but regardless, in his rookie year, so same thing. He played in every game, but only had 7 starts.
Played in every game?
Yes.
Oh. As a quarterback?
Rushing 695 yards, 5 touchdowns.
Jalen Hurts.
Incorrect. So now to the next year, made 15 starts. Through the air, he had 265 completions for 3,127 yards. Now this is a little insane, but 36 touchdowns. That's insane. Obviously, we're not expecting that. Led the league, not expecting that. On the ground is kind of where it gets a little nutty. 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns. This is Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I was going to say
so.
Lamar.
Not expecting Justin Fields to eclipse 1,200 yards. Maybe because he might be running for his life, but let's set the bar. I think, like you said, 800, 900, we'll be okay with that. Probably should have looked up Jalen Hurts, but whatever. That might have been a better comp. 3,000 yards, though. 3,100 yards.
Was that the year he won MVP?
This was, it was.
So, okay. So for those who legitimately care about the 4,000 yard passer thing.
Real quick.
No, but that's a fair point. Because man won MVP on 3,100 passing yards. If you were to remove every other stat and tell me, 3 years ago that the MVP that year would win with 3,100 passing yards, I would have called you crazy.
Jalen Hurts was way better. I don't know why I didn't think that was a good call by you. Jalen Hurts is the way better comp. The numbers from the rookie year is way more similar. Okay, we'll take the MVP. We'll take the guy that won MVP out of it, and we'll go with Jalen Hurts.
Who says that's out of reach for Justin?
The 3,000 yards is not. The 1,200 yards on the ground, I think, is.
I don't know.
The 36 touchdowns is way out of reach.
Was that total? Was that passing?
That was passing.
Oh,
that was just passing.
Okay, so he had 8 rushing touchdowns.
Seven rushing touchdowns, 36 passing touchdowns. All right, let's do Jalen Hurts. Rookie year, 52% completion percentage. This is his rookie year across 4 starts, 15 games. So more comparable to Justin Fields-ish. 77 completions, 52% completion, blah, blah. You get it. 1,061 yards, 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. More similar to Justin Fields. On the ground, then, in his rookie year, 4 starts, 15 games, 63 attempts, 354 yards, 3 touchdowns. They're pretty in the ballpark, in the same ballpark. The leap Jalen Hurts took in his second year, the year that just finished, the 2021 season, 15 games started. This is advanced. God, Pro Football Focus, or not
Pro
Focus.
Football Reference.
It's so clunky. I hate it. Okay. 61% completion percentage, 3,144 yards, 16 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Decent little leap. Rushing, 139 attempts, 784 yards, 10 touchdowns. I think that's what you shoot for.
I think you don't shoot for 16 passing touchdowns. You don't shoot for 16 passing touchdowns.
The touchdown thing is so wonky though because of just how much of a question mark A, Luke Getsy's offense is going to be. B, what the offensive line is going to be.
Yes.
C, what the receivers you're working with. Devonta Smith is probably better than Darnell Mooney. I don't even know what the other Eagles receivers are.
You don't need to know. Well,
tight end is way better.
AJ Brown now, but
tight end is way better
because
you had Goddard and you had Ertz for half the season too.
Yeah,
so that's still 2 top 15 tight ends that you have there.
Yeah,
and Goddard's probably top 10.
The problem I have is think about the conversations they're having in Philly. There's legitimate conversations about whether Hurts is the right guy.
Right
now, I think the situations are different because he wasn't drafted to be the franchise quarterback of the Eagles. He wasn't not really. He was, and then he was kind of put in that position, and then it's I think this could work. We could, when you
draft a second round quarterback who was in a national championship game, we kind of knew the writing was on the wall for Carson Wentz.
It was, but it wasn't, hey, boom, this is
sure.
It, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And that's the difference.
He made only 4 starts. Yeah.
But I think if you were to give those numbers to Justin Fields, that's improvement you want to see. And
right.
all you want to do really is not put anyone in panic mode. I don't want to have to go into January
you don't want to be the Eagles.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to be the Eagles
exactly.
right now. Be okay, make or break year, got to figure out if he's the guy because otherwise you got to start over.
We've done that before.
However, I will say there are worse years to have that happen. The Eagles, look at the position the Eagles were in. They had to choose between Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis and Desmond Ridder.
Yeah.
As opposed to next year, if Justin Fields is bad, God forbid,
no.
You have CJ Stroud and Bryce Young.
Do not pose this.
I'm just saying.
It's not happening. Not happening.
I agree. If the Bears are bad, I would much rather they are able to pair him with one of these top receivers, or you take one of these linemen, or one of these top defensive players. Obviously, yes. I'm just saying, if he's bad, if he's bad, I don't think he's going to be.
He's not going to be.
But I think you're gonna have options.
But here's also what you're trying to say is I think the problem is, or what you're facing is you can't afford for this to be a negative year it can't be a negative year, but for it to be a bad year for Justin Fields because next year is your Super Bowl year. You have to be primed and have it set for going to next year. Maybe not your Super Bowl year, but next year is your contention year. Playoffs year. You're spending all the money.
Sure.
That's when the window begins. You can't go into next year with, oh my God, we're having questions again about the most important position on the field because then we're redoing what we already did. That was the problem with the Mitch Trubisky era was you had the team around him ready. You were Super Bowl ready.
Right.
But there was questions at the biggest position that there shouldn't be questions at. So that's why it's Justin Fields' responsibility and his role to go out this year and say, look, we're going to lock this down. 0 questions come January, March, February, every month of the offseason next year, 0 questions.
You want to go, you want to do your draft prep without having to even think about like
without
quarterback
that,
is,
if
here's your board, you want quarterback all the way, all the way down there.
Lower than that. Like,
you want to be able to take care of receiver. You want to be like running back. You can get a running back anywhere.
Line,
but you want to like
backer probably.
Sure. I mean, wide receiver, offensive line, top 2 there. You tight end maybe, but you can find tight ends in the 5th, 6th round. Obviously, as we've seen with guys like Dalton Schultz and Dallas Goedert come. I mean, hell, even George Kittle, obviously. But you get what I'm going for. But like I said, you want quarterback to be not even in like you don't want to be the Eagles. You don't want to be like, all right, like. We could win 12 games or we could win 7 and we're like, shit. Okay, here we are. We have a Pro Bowl wide receiver, a Pro Bowl tight end, and decent defense and a decent offensive line, but we have no quarterback. Like, especially in like a weak division like the NFC East, as opposed to like, I mean, next year, the Packers are going to keep being the bane of our existence, but like, I kind of like the Lions this year, unfortunately. And I mean, Kirk Cousins is, lovely weather we're having around his plexiglass. Right. Exactly. Gross. So the NFC North, there's always going to be wins to take there. And the NFC, like there's always gonna be playoff spots open too. It's not the AFC where you have Russell Wilson
for at least 5 years.
Exactly. It's not Joe Burrow and the whole AFC West and whoever the hell comes out of the East. Like, it's the NFC, it's Rodgers, and this is probably going to be Brady's last year.
And then it's wide open.
So it's Rodgers and Stafford.
And who knows if it's Rodgers and Stafford, right? And who knows, it might be Rodgers last year too. I mean, like we just don't know with him. So that's what, like,
God, imagine you go into the NFC next year
without Brady, without Rodgers.
Like, let's say Justin Fields takes this lead, this kind of Jalen Hurts-esque, 3,000 something yards, 700 yards on the ground, leap in TDs, show some chemistry with the receivers. Cole Kmet takes a leap. Imagine you do that and you have some optimism. You go out, you spend all that cap space that you have on the line. You draft well.
You're the favorites to win the conference.
And then you only have Matt Stafford, whatever Trey Lance is, the Cowboys, like
Dak. Yeah.
Dak Prescott.
I kind of left out Dak, but
I mean, it's the Cowboys.
Justin Fields can't be better than Dak.
And then whatever's left, and Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins. Like,
they would be the favorites to win the NFC. They would be the favorites to win the NFC.
No.
Maybe second behind the Rams, given what the Rams do this year.
I mean, the Cowboys.
But look at the Chargers.
The Cowboys always get
Look at the Chargers. There's plenty of people who are betting the Chargers to win the AFC this year, and that's the exact same timeline, the exact same scenario. I mean, Justin Herbert takes the leap. Chargers were good last year, just barely missed the playoffs. And then this year, they spend all the money. Khalil Mack, they re-sign Mike Williams. They're putting it all in. They got some other guys as well.
Could really be a joke next year.
It's going to be a joke this year, Jake. It's going to be a joke this year.
The NFC South is going to be gross.
The NFC South is gross this year.
Well, yeah. I mean, outside of the Bucs, obviously. Wow. I mean,
and that's what I mean. This is why this is so important.
I kind of want the Bears to punt on this year now and get like a top 10 pick.
No, because because you're talking about how bad the NFC is this year, which gives them a possibility that they could get in. Like, it's not absurd to assume they get in at 8 and 9 in the playoffs in the 7th wild card with how bad the NFC is. It is totally possible. It's totally possible.
And then you play the Packers in Lambeau. Ugh.
Sure.
No, wait.
Give me it. I don't care.
No, because the Packers get the 1, then they get the bye. So then you're playing. Does the 2 still get a bye?
No, it's just the 1.
So then you play the Bucs probably.
Bucs or Rams. The Rams are the best team in the NFC, and they should be the number 1 seed this year anyway. But nonetheless, like,
no, because Stafford will miss 5 games at some point.
You think he's going to go down?
He always does. Wow. So if you're Joe is shaking his head that I'm even saying this right now somewhere. No, he's probably at the Scores 30th thing still.
Yeah, he was there earlier.
So the NFC, wow. Now that we're talking about this,
I've been trying to tell this to Jake for months. Now it's going through your head. So now you see why I'm not so crazy when I said the Bears could potentially get in with the 7th wild card spot.
I don't care about this year. I care about this year as a development year. Okay.
Well, I'm just saying.
Okay. I'm gonna freehand this. This probably sounds terrible. Okay. So this year, development year, Justin Fields gets a little better. Like what we were talking about. I'm going to move this. Okay. So Justin Fields, let's say 3,500 yards ish, 700 yards on the ground ish. Give me 25 touchdowns total. Okay. Does that sound reasonable? 17. Sure. Give me 17 and 7.
Sure.
17 through the air and 7 on the ground.
24. But...
Shut up, Kevin. So you get that, takes the lead. Okay, this is our guy. Shows some like big playability, like he showed in the Steelers game, like he showed in the Baltimore game, like he showed in the Raiders game. To an extent, I guess that game wasn't that mind blowing. Regardless, then David Montgomery has one more year after this.
No, this is his last year.
This is his 5th year
contract year.
Okay,
I think. Or so, they have the option this year.
Okay, so you probably take up that option because he's really good. And let's say Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney take a step. I won't say leap, but whatever. We'll say it. Man, then you have all that cap space to sign an offensive line. Let's say one of the rookie offensive linemen shows enough to be a starter and another shows like enough to be a solid reserve, like an Alex Bars type guy. Let's say Larry Borum entrenches himself as like a guy you keep around, and Lucas Patrick and Cody Whitehair, you bring that back next year. And then you spend big money on whatever offensive line. I'm not doing that math. The other one spot that are left open on offensive line. Okay, you spend big money there. Spend some big money on a wide receiver to pair with Darnell Mooney.
You're laying it out. But
it's not impossible.
It's not impossible.
It is not impossible for a year from now, us to be talking about the Bears. Okay, window is open. You're probably not a Super Bowl team, but you're a playoff team.
You're a top 4 seed in the NFL. You're contenders to win the division.
Easy. Let's say top 5. Let's say top 5 seed in the NFC. Man, I hate to be the Kevin in this situation because you all know that I like to be reasonable.
Jabari Lou in the chat. Bears going to the playoffs. We don't have Matt Nagy. Getsy calling the plays, and we running heavy. All those play action plays.
So that's the other part of it. That's the other part of this. Luke Getsy.
Well, no. Here, you know what you said that should stick out to you? You said, all right, this year, Justin Fields developmental year, right?
Sure.
But here's what you have to understand. A Justin Fields developmental year, if you think he takes a step, results in 8 wins. They won 6 games.
I would take 7.
Okay, but
I would take 7.
And maybe you're a couple 1-score games away from being 8 to 9 wins. Okay,
give me a couple heartbreakers.
So you're painting it out right now that it's possible for them to be in contention this year. But I know you're talking about next year, and that but that's back to our original point that started this conversation. That's why this is so important, that this needs to be a building block year for Justin Fields, because then all of the fantasies we just played out will not come true if Justin Fields doesn't take that leap, because that's all that matters. Because your roster can be inferior to other teams, but if you have
believe I'm about to look up who's going to be free
like Justin Herbert, then you're in position, in my opinion, to be a top 3 favorite to win the NFC. We've seen it before. The blueprint is there. Now we just had to see it from Justin Fields. And again, we're saying a lot of, we have to see it. I don't know if we're going to see it. We're going to see it. Like, I'm putting it out on the mic, on tape right here, that we're going to see it. And it starts in training camp. So it's super important. I just want the speculating to end. We're close. I know. And that's why I want football season to start, because we do this for months and we speculate. We just want this stuff to start. We want to see from training camp. But Shane, I know you're eager. I also implore you not to, and I have to do this as well, not to make too much about what happens at training camp, because there's going to be growing pains for the first few weeks of training camp. I don't think there's going to be growing pains the moment the season starts, but Justin Fields said just a couple weeks ago, about a month ago, he said, if we were to play a game today, we're not ready. And he's not going to sugarcoat that. He's going to be real with you.
The list of wide receivers that are going to be available next winter,
it not pretty?
Or next summer, next spring, whatever. It's real gross. It's real gross. Obviously, like, Debo's the top one, obviously,
right,
if he's allowed. But that would be his 5th year. No, unrestricted, it says. Huh. How about that?
Jabari Lou, Eberflus is bringing.
So, I mean, like, DK Metcalf and Debo would be the top of the top. But after that, it's real gross. This is so gross. This is like Jacoby Myers.
Oh, great.
Sterling Shepard.
Great.
This is a Juju again.
So get used to what we have, I guess. And then
Jamison Crowder.
Wide receiver in the first round. But Jake, listen.
This is so disgusting.
let me
Mecole Hardman.
Let me suggest this, Jake. If Darnell Mooney proves himself to be a 1,200-yard receiver this year with 10 touchdowns, you don't have to find a blue chip wide receiver 1. Darnell Mooney is your blue chip wide receiver 1. You can go after a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster. I don't know why Devin Funchess is even on a list. What year is this? Devin Funchess, what are we doing?
Bad. This is so bad.
All right. Should we do our running back preview?
I want to keep going down this list. This is very funny.
Jake has gone down the sport tracker rabbit hole of 2023 free agent wide receiver.
I don't even know any of these.
This is what we do on July 20th.
I don't even know any of these.
We go down the rabbit hole of 2023. Give out a name. Let's see if I know it.
Jamarcus Bradley.
God, no.
Richie James.
Richie James.
Look, hey, Laquan Treadwell, he'll be a free agent.
Minnesota Vikings.
Wow, these are gross. So if you're going to go for Debo or DK Metcalf, it's not bad. It's
DK. They're going to have the option to do it.
Let's look at offensive linemen real quick. Because honestly, I don't even want to do running backs or tight ends anymore. Because I want to do running backs.
We
got 40 minutes. No. Okay, we could do.
I got running backs for you.
Okay, this is actually pretty. Okay, lineman's actually not bad. Orlando Brown Jr. is going to be a free agent. Jack Conklin, that's pretty good. DJ Humphries, Jason Kelsey, he's old as shit though. Quentin Nelson, with Matt Eberflus.
Give me Quentin Nelson, and we're
Mike McGlinchey. Pretty good. Wow, there's a lot of good offensive linemen. Okay, all right, so you're going for offensive linemen,
and that's more important.
1,000%.
It will be more important at that point because Darnell Mooney is going to prove himself as a bona fide number 1 wide receiver this year. So
yeah, those wide receivers are gross.
Because there are some things.
Okay, wait, but I want to do what we were gonna. Where does Justin Fields rank in the coolness rankings of NFL quarterbacks? So Zach Wilson's number 1 for obvious reasons.
That TikTok did
obvious reasons.
270,000 views and 35K likes.
Obvious reasons.
Yeah. And
if you don't know, then where have you been?
He's in love with this story.
It's so great. He's in love with this story. Come on. I mean, how is it not the greatest? It's such a great story. Okay. So Zach Wilson 1. Joe Burrow 2.
Okay. I mean, Brady's top 5.
So here's the thing with Brady. He used to be like cringe cool. Like he used to like be cringy cool.
But I was on TikTok and stuff.
But now he's like, now that he got away from New England, Tampa Tom's cool.
Yeah.
He's pretty cool.
I kind of like him a little bit
more.
So
do we put Tom Brady 3?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure.
Justin Herbert's a dweeb.
Yeah. He's not like.
Patrick Mahomes would be cool if his fiance, now wife, right? They're married now, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. If his wife and brother didn't completely just drag down his cool.
It shouldn't be that way. Because I love Patrick Mahomes.
He could be cool. The State Farm commercial tour is like, I'm your typical sneakerhead. Scrap it. I don't want to see it anymore. That one stinks. That one,
the one where he's in the shoe store and he's the shoe store sales associate.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
sucks.
Great.
Sucks. Okay, so we're what? 3 in. So we're Wilson, Burrow, Brady,
Lamar. Lamar's got to be top 5. Lamar is swag. Lamar is swag.
Yeah.
Lamar's top 5.
He is. Okay. What else do you like?
Russell Wilson? Wait. Ready? Wait, watch this. Hold on. Ready?
No, don't do it. Oh, God.
Broncos country. That's right.
I want to hit you. That was so brutal.
Broncos country? That's right.
Broncos country?
Broncos country?
It's so bad. It's so bad in the best way. God, that guy's such a dork.
I love him.
He's such a dork.
But he's not top 5 cool quarterbacks.
He's not even top 20. Russell Wilson is a bottom 10 quarterback in coolness rating. He might be bottom 5. Yeah. He might be bottom 5.
Now, nice quarterback ratings, he's number 1.
Yeah, politeness, sure.
Jabari Liu. Russell Wilson is corny AF.
Yes, he's the corniest dude possibly ever.
You know who's got a little bit of swag? Jimmy G.
Yes, that was one I was thinking about earlier. Okay, is that our top? Is that a 5? Yeah, that's 5, right?
Oh yeah,
that's 5.
Yeah.
That's 5. Jimmy G. Yeah, definitely.
I think Justin Fields is capable of being a top 5 swag quarterback. He just doesn't show it on the field.
So that's the thing. I think if and when the Bears are decent again, that's when Justin Fields starts showing the personality again, like we saw like at Ohio State with the TikToks and the.
Once you're winning makes everything fun.
You can't you risk becoming Baker Mayfield if you're like dancing around and trying to be cool when you suck. Yeah. Can't do it. Can't have it. So yeah, Justin Fields TBD on coolness. Do love the twist braids. Absolutely love it. That is a huge help for sure.
He's basically a top 5 quarterback.
Love that.
Those are cool.
So that's cool. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just
there's names I'm blanking on. If you guys have any other names, throw them in the chat.
You know who I think is like closet cool? Derek Carr, I feel like, is a cool guy to hang out with.
Yeah.
But I feel like
he's not like swag.
He's so intense on the field that I think but I feel like he's a good time.
Yeah.
To go out with. I low key think Mac Jones could be a good time too.
This is the worst.
Now that he's not like a chunk boy.
No.
I think he kind of could be cool. TBD. Jury's out on Mac Jones. I feel like he could be. No, because he's in New England, so he'll never be able to show his personality. Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Tua, if he was good, same thing as Justin Fields. It's just he stinks, so he can't really show that he's cool.
Yeah, Tua ain't it.
He might stink, which is a problem. Yeah, it's just the bar, the tippy top is just so far and away ahead. Nobody's touching Zach Wilson or Tom Brady or Joe Burrow. These guys are cool.
But you're going to see some swag out of Justin this year.
I hope so.
Justin's a fun guy, man. I watched him play at Ohio State for years.
Russell Wilson is just so...
You have an infatuation with Russell Wilson.
He's just so... Him and Cousins, too. They're the type of dudes... They're the type of dudes that I feel like they open a conversation with. Wonderful weather we're having.
Yeah.
1,000%. Yeah. And it's bad.
Wonderful weather.
Right? Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
It's brutal.
Stafford's kind of cool, but...
Jalen Hurts is up there.
No, he's not. He's kind of boring.
But... No, I like him.
Dak can be kind of swag.
Yeah, when his ankle's attached. What are you doing? Okay. Well, that was talking coolness.
I like that.
That was talking quarterback coolness.
Running backs.
So David Montgomery, he just continues to be a top 10. I mean, he's made his ascension into the top 10, I would say, of NFL running backs, which is, basically, it doesn't mean that much because obviously you can get running backs anywhere. We saw Khalil Herbert filled in very admirably for David Montgomery when he was out hurt last year. So it's kind of okay, you don't want to lose him, obviously, but David Montgomery last year, he's only had one 1,000-yard season, which was in 2020. And granted, he's missed time. 13 games this past year, 849 yards, 7 touchdowns, 3.8 yards per attempt. That's really gross. But also speaks to the offensive line and just, offenses knew what you were doing. You were going to run the ball constantly. So do we expect what's the ceiling for David Montgomery is 1,200 yards, probably. Expectation, should we expect 1,000 yards? Yeah. Is that fair?
Yeah. The way they have talked about being a run-heavy team, I think is the reason why I expect that. Because I've said I think that the carries are going to be split more than they were last year. And I think Khalil Herbert had 103 last year. Sure. Yeah, he had 103 carries. I think that's going to get up to probably 170. So that's going to take away from David Montgomery. And I actually do think
103 carries.
Yeah. And I think Treston Ebner is going to get some. And I don't know if Darrington Evans is going to be really effective. We'll get into that next.
Well, and ideally, you're not running the ball as much as you had to last year.
Right.
So
I think 1,000 is expected again with another game on the schedule. Hopefully he's healthy enough to do that. But, if you average that out, that's not even, that's, I don't know. He doesn't have to get 100 yards in 8 games or something. And then under that and the rest or something, the way you want to break it down. But I honestly do think as we were talking about cap space and going into next year, because they have so much, if David Montgomery is a 1,000-yard rusher, say he's a Pro Bowler this year in the NFC, which I think is probably virtually
kind of crazy that it hasn't been already.
I don't know. Given the running backs in the NFC already starting with CMC and Dalvin Cook,
sure.
And then,
even AJ Dillon.
Exactly. Aaron Jones, I think made it a couple of years ago. And
yeah, even in your own division, you're probably third.
Yeah. So I don't know if he's going to be a Pro Bowler, but if he's that good again,
Cam Akers back.
They might have enough money to say, hey, maybe we can keep you. He has to understand, though, and I forget there was a former NFL running back who went on a podcast and said, look, running backs nowadays, you're on one team for a couple years and then you're done. You're on to the next. That's just the way it is now. And we talk about this every episode, but he's going to have to prove himself very valuable. But if the Bears are deeming him valuable, I still think he's going to have to take a pay cut or still have to understand, hey, my value is going to be lower than what I want it to be.
And also, does he want would you rather stay in Chicago where you hope, expect, whatever word you want to use, Justin Fields to take another leap and then there's less pressure on you? Or do you want to go somewhere like Philadelphia or New York where you're going to be running into a brick wall again like you did last year? So, I mean, that has to kind of go into part of the equation as well, I suppose.
Right. It absolutely does. But nonetheless, like Khalil Herbert's going to be a bigger factor this year.
Sure.
And I don't think even next year, if they decide to move on from David Montgomery or whatever, I don't think Khalil Herbert will be as good as Dave Montgomery.
No, he's a 6th-round pick.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, but it doesn't matter. Like those guys can be just as good. I just don't know if he's, and he could be, like he totally could be. But you might, take a step back there. But I think nonetheless, like this is going to be a run heavy offense and they're going to utilize all of these guys. Like this isn't just the Dave Montgomery show, but also you have to consider the fact that the Bears basically have a 3rd or 4th running back in Justin Fields. Like you better be running read options. You better be designing QB runs for Justin Fields.
I mean, we said what, 700 yards, 800 yards?
800 yards. So yeah, it's basically going to need to happen. But like we know Dave Montgomery is going to do his thing this year, especially as a receiving back. But do you have anything else on Khalil Herbert? Because I kind of want to go down the list there after that because there's some interesting things.
This is fun.
TV's going crazy.
Khalil Herbert, I like what you could like. Obviously, it's going to be like, I'm not going to say the Tariq Cohen year from whatever 2-3 years ago. Like that's really, really hard to recreate, especially like I will give credit where credit's due. Matt Nagy did that right. Used Tariq Cohen very, very well in that year that he set like career highs and was a Pro Bowler. But I think Khalil Herbert could have like a fraction of that production and could be used in a similar way.
Yeah.
He's kind of that same, like he surprised us all last year when he showed us that he could run over guys. Like that was surprising, I think, to everybody. And we're like, okay, wow, Khalil Herbert, go off. But I think that there's potential there, especially when because David Montgomery, like, got better as a receiver, but still leaves a little bit desired as a receiver. And I think Khalil Herbert can kind of pick up, like fill some of that void. So yeah, I mean, you have a great 1-2 punch. You have in a division where there's 2 excellent 1-2 punches. You have a very good one of your own.
Yeah. It's not up there in top 5, but it's good enough. Right. And I think people obviously aren't really cognizant of that yet, just given Khalil Herbert's limited carries last year. I mean, I wouldn't say 103 limited, but still, you're going to have to still see a little bit more. But, he only had 14 receptions for 96 yards receiving. So that's where I think you're going to see a lot of this Bears offense, come from their ability of the running backs to catch the ball. And that's why I think Treston Ebner is a guy to keep an eye on. Okay. Darrington Evans was a guy we signed in the offseason. Injury-ridden career, played 1 game last year, played 5 games in 2020. He was a 3rd-round pick for the Titans in 2020, which to me makes zero. Like when I looked at it, I was like, why?
Hey, man. N'Keal Harry was a 1st-round pick of the Patriots.
Yeah, but the Titans had Derrick Henry. There's just zero reason to do that, and we've gone.
Hey, the Patriots had Chris Hogan, man.
The Patriots had
who I think is out of the league.
No one. Julian Edelman on one leg.
Isn't he playing professional lacrosse now?
Yes.
That's kind of sick.
Not really.
That's kind of sport. That's kind of sick. To go from the NFL to then like play like professional.
It's impressive.
It's very impressive.
He's not Bo Jackson or Michael Jordan.
Lacrosse is like picking up steam. I follow a couple people on Twitter who I follow a couple people on Twitter who are like super into lacrosse.
Let's not push the lacrosse is growing steam narrative. I'd rather not.
I'm just saying.
Darrington Evans, I'm not sure he'll make the roster. I'm really not sure, given his history. But
and also given like how many receivers you might keep, given how many offensive linemen you might have to keep. So I mean that has to factor into it as well.
That's true. But Treston Ebner, a guy drafted this year out of Baylor. This is a guy who had the 2nd most all-purpose yards in Baylor history. Now he was there for 5 years, so that's part of the reason why. But
in the Big 12,
who knows what the Big 12 will be in multiple years after,
conference
realignment.
Or next year.
But had over 250 receiving yards in each year of those 5 years. He is a pure threat as a receiving back. And if you're watching or listening to this, go to YouTube, look up Bears highlights of Treston Ebner, or like the highlights of Treston Ebner from college that the Bears posted.
Golden Bears.
The Golden Bears. They were all receiving highlights. Like that is what he provides for you. So I think they carry Treston Ebner, and I really do think he comes in as running back 3 and he shows out in training camp as a receiving back, as a guy you can bring in really interesting personnel sets. Maybe you do like 22 personnel. What about a 22 personnel set? 2 tight ends, 2 running backs. I mean, I'm just throwing out numbers here. Like
these are
could we?
These are words. These are concepts haven't been seen in Chicago and
I know
probably ever.
Give me 42 personnel. 4 running backs. Has a 42 personnel set ever been run?
You're asking the wrong person.
No way.
You're the one that would know
It's
that, not me.
But he averaged 12 yards per reception in college. That was the most among running backs in the 2022 draft class. So, like, if you're gonna, look beyond David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert, like, and as we're technically doing a training camp preview here. We kind of fall in love with running backs, right? Ryan Nall was a training camp hero for years. Who was Artavis Pierce was our guy. Amounted to nothing.
The annual Tanner Gentry training camp player of the
year. I already named mine, Chris Finky, or we don't even know his last name pronunciation. Finky. Yep. You named it to be.
I don't even remember.
I don't remember. It was a week ago, Jake. What's in?
No, it wasn't.
It was a week ago.
Was it really?
It was. I don't remember either, though. So.
No, we didn't.
It was a week ago.
Damn, that's.
We know what Jake had too much this weekend.
Bad job by me.
But no more Ryan Nall this year. That'll be missed.
No more fullback.
No. Kari
Blazingame. Yeah. No more fullback Ryan Nall.
No, we do have a fullback now.
No more Ryan Nall fullback.
Ryan Nall turning into a fullback concept.
Exactly. Yes,
that we all dreamed of for 1 week. But
wet dreams.
I think we had Dave Montgomery, Khalil Herbert, Treston Ebner, and then that's maybe they carry Darrington.
I'm gonna make Ebner my Tanner Gentry annual training camp player of the year.
Changing years?
Yes.
I like it.
Well, not changing. I just can't remember.
He's also, I don't know. We'll have to do this next episode, talk about like what the returners look like from a depth chart standpoint. But I don't think Ebner is going to be the guy. He was a returner in college, had 1 touchdown, had like 5.
It'll probably be Herbert
yards, but it'll probably be Herbert. But Ebner has that ability, so I think we're gonna see some clip of Ebner returning something in training camp. We're all go crazy, but
that's what we'll get. We'll get the like field level slow motion video that we that's what it'll be. And the guy's throwing like towels in the background. Yep, that's 1,000% happening. I would bet my entire life savings on it, which isn't very much, but I would still do it.
So we won't do tight ends because we're running out of time. I want to do this. I want to play a little game with you about the Madden ratings though, real quick before we head out of here. And real quick, I want to preface
they are all low.
They're all low, but there are people who are just like, oh, it's Madden ratings. Like, why do you care? It's just a video game. Like, yes, I will say. True. But
I will say with the Madden ratings, ESPN doing stuff on it, that's a lot. Your ESPN, find more material.
Correct.
Us, we're a small podcast.
We can make something out of that. But also, like, it's national level disrespect of the Chicago Bears. Like, it's national level.
Is it disrespect? The Bears aren't very good.
Is it disrespect? When I read you this is going to be disrespect. Okay. Let's play this game, all right? I'm going to give you the names of wide receivers, and you're going to tell me if you think they're rated higher or lower than Darnell Mooney on Madden.
Okay.
Let's start with Tyler Boyd. Do you think he was rated higher or lower than Darnell Mooney on Madden?
Higher, as he should be.
Correct. Higher, 84.
Yeah.
I don't even think Tyler Boyd is much higher than Darnell Mooney as a wide receiver.
Now, I think you think that because he's the third receiver on a good Bengals team, not necessarily because of talent.
Also, Jamar Chase rated 87.
Yeah, that's wild.
Might be the most disrespectful thing.
Yeah, that's wild. Who's the other receiver in Cincinnati that I'm forgetting?
T. Higgins.
Yes.
I didn't put him on here, but I think T. Higgins like at 83 or something.
Yeah.
Chase Claypool.
I would say he's probably higher.
Lower.
Really?
Chase Claypool is lower. I won't give you his rating because that'll reveal Darnell Mooney.
That I would say is probably appropriate. I thought he'd be higher just because he has a deep threat and has a lot of touchdowns, but okay.
Chase Clay, I think they're about even. I was a little bit surprised that they weren't the same rating. But I still think Darnell Mooney's rated too low. Sterling Shepard.
Oh God, he better be lower.
Higher. By 3 points.
Oof.
Okay. Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Higher.
Lower.
Okay.
I also would have put him about equal with Darnell Mooney, but I can't argue with him being lower. I think that's crazy.
Being on the Lions and Jared Goff is not helpful for him.
This is where things start to get absolutely absurd.
Okay. I love
Kendrick Bourne.
Who?
Kendrick Bourne, basically wide receiver 2 on the New England Patriots behind Jacoby Myers.
Oh, Jesus.
Jake said who, okay? And I don't even, like...
That was an honest who. That wasn't even a bit. I don't think I've ever heard that name in my life.
We're a Bears podcast, not an NFL podcast or a Patriots podcast.
That could have been your neighbor's name. I would have been like, okay.
Higher or lower?
I just based on your reaction, I'm going to say he's higher.
Higher. All right, this is where things start to get really crazy.
Kendrick Bourne, that's not a real person.
This is where things start to get really crazy.
Okay.
Nelson Aguilar.
Oh, God. He better be lower. There's no way he's higher.
Higher.
No way.
By 2 points.
Darnell Mooney doesn't have people on the street in Philadelphia saying, and we were catching him. Unlike, like, Darnell Mooney's not a meme in Philadelphia or everywhere. God, that's bad. That's really bad.
That's really bad.
Who does he even play for anyway? I know he was with the Raiders last year.
The Patriots.
Right? God.
He's the Patriots. I think our camera went out.
That's fun.
So we're going to
That's good.
Switching the camera for the last 2 seconds. The audio is what matters here for the podcast.
Sure.
And then
this is fun
for the stream people. But
I was told that we had full battery.
Don't look.
Okay.
All right. Last one. This might even be insane. Wait,
camera.
did I tell the result of Nelson Aguilar?
You said higher, right?
Higher.
Yeah. That's insane. What are we doing?
Just wait for this. Jamison Crowder.
He's above.
Oh, come on!
I mean, that's easy.
No, it's not easy.
I mean, I don't agree with it, but I mean, people love Jamison Crowder. People love Jamison Crowder.
Higher.
I get it. People love Jamison Crowder this year.
Allen Lazard.
Who? See, I'm factoring in the Rodgers effect, so it's probably higher.
Lower.
Okay.
So you see how scattered this is? Darnell Mooney was rated an 89. Or sorry, not an 89, a 79. He didn't crack 80. All right. Tyler Boyd was an 84. Chase Claypool was a 78. Sterling Shepard was an 82. What are we doing?
That's insane.
Amon-Ra St. Brown was a 78. Kendrick Bourne was an 82, a guy that Jake has never heard of. Nelson Aguilar. Nelson No Hands Aguilar.
That's insane.
His nickname is literally No Hands.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Higher at 81, Jamison Crowder, who is he on? What team is he on? I don't know what team he's on.
Yeah, that's tough.
Do you know what team Jamison Crowder's on? Come on.
I think I do.
Is he on the Bills now?
For some reason, the Commanders is sticking in my brain. Look it up. Look it up. Jamison Crowder.
High quality podcast.
This is great radio right now.
We're a radio show. He wasn't. Yeah, he's on the Bills.
Oh, was on the Commanders though.
On the Commanders.
Formerly Jets too.
For a year.
How about
I remember
that?
him on the Jets. And then Allen Lazard was a 78. The bottom line is Roquan should be a 95, and I think that was just disrespectful too. But to have Darnell Mooney as
Roquan Smith has been getting disrespected for the last 2 years, so that's not.
And this is this. Okay, but this is what I mean. These it's annoying.
Well, people are low on the Bears.
I don't
people
care.
Are very low on the Bears.
You can be low on the Bears. Doesn't mean you have to be low on individual players who are deserving of a rating higher than that. So I don't know.
I honestly, okay. So what would you want? What number would make you happy for Darnell Mooney? 81?
82.
Okay.
He should not be lower than Sterling Shepard.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
And after this year, he'll be an 89 at least.
I don't know about
actually.
That.
If Jamar Chase was an 87,
you're right. I'll say Darnell Mooney has the potential to be 85, but I don't hate 79 given all the circumstances, the uncertainty. But I guess whatever. Cool. That was talking Madden.
There you have it. Why not?
How about it?
We're still live on TikTok. If you guys don't follow us on TikTok, follow us, Bears Nation Pod. Had some viral posts go out. Jake was talking about Zach Wilson.
And I will continue to.
And he will continue to. And the people loved it. So
it's a great, it's all, how could you not love it? It's
how
awesome.
Could you not love it? Do you have anything else for us, Mr. Jake Hassan, on this fine July 20th?
I don't think so.
Any little other nuggets about quarterbacks and their relationships?
No.
Does Justin Fields have a girlfriend?
I hope not.
God, we got to get him on.
I hope not. Chicago's a great city with a lot of talent. And
what does that have to do with him having a girlfriend?
So I hope he's appropriately scouting the talent.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I didn't catch
Put
that
up Zach Wilson numbers.
Didn't catch that first.
Put up Zach Wilson numbers. That's all I'm asking for. I want my quarterback to be, for lack of a better word, I want my quarterback to be fucking. Okay. That would shoot him up the coolness rankings. Just
how do you already know he's not doing it?
Fair. A gentleman in the streets.
You gotta trust my boy.
A gentleman in the streets, as it were. Okay, I'll accept that.
Nonetheless, Justin Fields is bringing the heat on and off the field. He's an absolute legend. So, You said it last week. You said he's a good-looking guy, and I'm sure he's taking care of business. That's all.
It helps when you're an NFL quarterback too.
But next week, man, training camp. So
next week is training camp.
We'll have official things to talk about.
Yeah, we won't have to do Madden ratings
to fill time.
Which I think we did like a whole episode on Madden ratings last year. So credit to us for being better.
This is development. If Justin Fields takes the kind of development that Bears Nation podcast has taken, the Bears are winning the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, that's fair.
So
hey, we upgraded to a studio. That's pretty cool.
I don't want to call this a studio. We'll call this a basement in Chicago, but it works.
It's better than what we had.
What is this podcast? I don't know, Shane.
Oh, Instagram.
I don't know. But
you know what I want?
What do you want?
I want Shane Reardon in this basement.
I was thinking about that this morning. Like, what do you do on Friday night?
He'll never do it. But
no, he'll do it. That man will do it immediately.
He'll never come here. We'll have to go there.
No, he'll do it.
We'd have to go there.
No, he'll come
I guarantee you he won't leave his house.
He'll come here.
Oh, no, it'd be cool to do it on his porch. That'd be cool.
I have an audio box. I have a camera. What are you doing on Friday night? Friday evening, 6 o'clock after the Park and the Spiegel show. After You Better You Bet.
I'm not giving you my Friday night. I'm not giving my Friday night to this show.
Oh, come on. You got to stop acting like you do things on Friday night, Jake.
I got stuff to do. Leave me alone.
Okay.
That was rude. The show is over. Okay. I'm closing that out. That was mean. That was unnecessary, Kevin. I'm Kevin. I throw softballs really hard. Get out of here. Okay. What I will say, the in-person thing, the banter has gone up. This is good for the banter. Okay. This has been Bears Nation Podcast. One camera switch. Happens the best.
We'll have a real battery next week. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's great. All right. We'll be back next week. Training camp preview. Myself, Kevin Lapka, back in this spot. It'll be cool. It'll be fun. And we'll have actual stuff to talk about. Like Kevin said, we'll do training camp expectations. We'll talk about the tight ends. We'll talk about the defense. We'll do more projections games like we did today because that was fun and I really enjoy it. So for myself, for our gracious host, Kevin Lapka, this has been Bears Nation Podcast. Everybody have a good week. And as always, bear down.
Bear down.
Bye.